Nishadya Sumanasakha Sattvarthanam Upakrame Yam Natva Kritakatya Asyuhutam Namami Gajananam Parthaya Pratiboditam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaita Amritavarshaniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashathyayinim Ambatvamanusandadami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshiniim Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Padyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Yoginam Vishwanath Atmalabhat Param Labham Bhaktaram Nakadachane Gita Artha Grantakartaram Sri Gurum Pranamamyaham Yonta Pravishya Vacham Dhritim Buddhim Prachodayat Om Namah Sababhyas Sabapatibhyascha Vo Namah. Om. Friend of Gita Regimen for Advaitic Living. We were in shloka number 65 of the second chapter, but I have something more to 65. Shlokas 64 and 65 of second chapter. So I will start from there. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu Vishayan indriyaicharan Atmavasyair videyatma Prasadam adigacchatanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna chetaso hyashu Buddhi padyavatisthate. These two shlokas, very important, not only in the Gita, but in the 18 shlokas that Krishna is saying in answer to Arjuna's question. How does a Brahmajnani behave? How does he walk? What does he talk about? You see, Arjuna asks for external signs, and Krishna replied, as we know, as we have remarked earlier in discussing this shloka, Krishna said that there are no outward signs, it is all subjective, it is a question of the attitude of the mind. You have to look into his mind to see whether attachment, dvesha is hate, like and dislike, attachment and hate, these things should not be there. Ragat dvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaicharan. So you have to the description that Krishna gives is very moving with in the same way as any other person moves. That is, he will be using the same senses, he will be interacting with the same sense objects as the other persons are doing, but with an attitude, with a different attitude. Ragat dvesha viyuktai. What is ragat dvesha? Void of any attachment, any dvesha, any hate. There is no liking and disliking. There is no attraction, there is no repulsion. The senses are interacting with the other sense objects in the same way. This is what Aurobindo calls, is a beautiful phrase, unsensuous use of the senses. Unsensuous. Remember, sensuous and sensual are two different things. Sensual means sensuous means senses are being attracted or repulsed by the sense objects. Sensual means one gets involved in, so that is not here. Say unsensuous means the sense does not, though interacts with the sense objects, it is not attracted, it is not repelled. Remember, this idea of ragadvesha viyuktaihi vishayan indriyaicharan, one moves about in the senses, attracted or repelled by the sense objects. This kind of movement is what Aurobindo calls unsensuous use of this Krishna and Durvasa. Using mantras which are obviously, which do not appeal to us, but when we look into it carefully, we know that because it is an unsensuous use of the senses, the one is called Nitya Brahmachari, Krishna, and the other is called Nityopavasi, Durvasa. Earlier, in an earlier shloka, shloka number 45, in this chapter already, Traigunya Vishakya Vedaham Nisraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdu. So, there he has said that he has to be Traigunya Vishay, Nistraigunya, that is not subject or tamas. Remember, Nitya Sattva Saha, one has to be eternally in the Sattva mode, So Raga and Dvesha, attachment, attraction and repulsion, they are not concomitant with the Nitya Sattva. 14th chapter, he is going to say, Rajoragatmakam Vidhi, Rajas, the Rajas guna, there are three gunas, Sattva is the lowest, and Rajas is the restless, dynamic, peaceless state of mind. So that Rajas, it is nothing but Ragatmakam. It is full of attachment and affection and attachment and repulsion. Which goes along with Rajas is not concomitant with Nitya Sattva Saha. That is what was hinted in shloka 45. Nisray Gunyaha means not influenced by any of the three gunas, not Sattva means no duality. Nitya Sattva Saha, always in the Sattva mode. This gives the Vedantic reason why one has to be in Ragat Dve to the skies, because this tells you exactly what is our goal and what is the process by which we should reach the goal. That is, we have to slowly start throwing off, discarding, renouncing every raga, every liking and every dislike that we have imbibed over our various lives. You see, this is a very common occurrence. We must have talked to our friends or relatives, and we must have heard this, we must have experienced this kind of reactions. You see, somebody talks to us in an insulting fashion long ago, even 20 years ago. Maybe not me, but somebody else. Somebody else would be now speaking to you, and he would say, "No, sir, are still ringing in my ears." So this is the persistence of that raga and dvesha in our system. It is very difficult for us to forget the wrongs done by others, and we easily also forget the good done by others. We should not forget any of the good that other people have done to us. That is the starting point to follow this regimen. Raga Dvesha Viyuktei, divine reminder for us, and we need divine help for this. And how do we get that divine help? And for that, Krishna has given you 4 or 5 shlokas earlier. In shloka number 61, Yukta Asita Matparaha, Yukta Asita Matparaha. Sit, totally surrendering your, you see, then try to concentrate. That is how you will be able to get the strength, the mental strength, the moral strength to be devoid of raga and dvesha, attachment and repulsion. You see, there is a pair which is contrasted very often: pravritti and nivritti. What is pravritti? You have to be involved. You have to desist from action. Buddhi yukto jahati hai ube sukrta dukrite. That was the shloka. That is, one renounces both the good and the bad. Buddhi yuktaha, samabuddhi yuktaha. Pravritti and nivritti. So, yogastat kuru karmani is nivritti. So there is a pravritti and a nivritti. Both are necessary. But the involvement in action, the pravritti, has to be done with raga. This is a subtle point here. You have to be doing your action. You have to be discharging all your obligations. You have to be vishayan indriyai sharan. You have to be moving. You cannot avoid it. But when you are interacting with the sense objects, you have to be raga dvesha viyuktai. That is why, and the clarity of mind, and this is obtained only through God's grace, and that is why yukta asita matparaha. Once that clarity of mind comes, that is the prasada, clarity of mind. That ends all kinds of sorrow. You see? So, prasade sarva dukkhanam hani. Clarity of mind comes. Ashu, very soon, buddhi patyavatishthate, the intelligence, the wisdom, the mind which has now become pure, becomes serene, becomes established completely in Brahman. This is the content of these two shlokas. This is, as I told you, this is very, we have to remember it almost every day. So then that will take us to the next shloka. Nasti buddhira yuktasya, shloka number 6. Nacha yuktasya bhavana, nacha bhavayata shanti, ashantasya kutas sukam. You should understand. Tells you very simple ideas, very simple shloka. Then he puts in a very profound shloka which is very difficult to interpret. For example, Dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma tasya tasmad aparighātyete natvam shochitam argasi. One of the earlier shlokas. Everybody, whoever wrote this, Arjuna, he says. So here again, in shloka number 60, yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashyita. However much you may try, even if you are a great or very strong or so strong that they will take away, they will hijack your mind very easily. This is easily understood. There is no philosophy here, there is no great, that our senses are taking our mind away. So these are simple shlokas. Suddenly he will also tell you great, profound shlokas for which it's a difficult terrain that you are passing through. Nasato vidyate bhavo, shloka number 16, I think. Nasato vidya, whatever he sees, this is what it means. This is what I call Thirukkural-like statement. What is a Thirukkural-like statement? You know, Thirukkural, if you read just 1.5 lines of that Thirukkural, one verse, by itself it may not mean much, but you have to really understand it from a teacher and know enough Tamil which will come out of it. So like that, he introduces some shlokas now and then, for which Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, all of them have to come and explain. Here is one like that, number 66. Nasti buddhira yuktasya shantihi ashantasya kutas sukam. For the one whose mind is undisciplined, I've already told you, means in union with the ultimate, in union, in yoga. So nasti buddhihi ayuktasya. Ayuktasya, one who is not, or who is not in union in that yoga, buddhihi nasti. He doesn't have the proper intelligence. Single-pointed intellect. There is no yearning for self-knowledge. Nachaha anacha ayuktas, of a disciplined mind who is not in union in yoga. Ayuktasya, for such a person, bhavana nacha. There is no bhavana. What is bhavana? Yeah, this is where we have to look at the commentators. Each commentator will give you a different meaning. I mean, you have to understand it. Consciousness, the right understanding, the right attitude of mind. So many different meanings can be given to that word bhavana. Nasti buddhiya yukta. Buddhi, intelligence is not there. That is, who has not concentrated, who does not have the yogiti buddhi, he does not have the right intelligence. And for such a person, bhavana nacha, there is no yearning for such self-knowledge. And for such a one who does not have this yearning, there cannot be peace. Nacha bhavayata shantihi. Abhavyataha, this bhavana, without the bhavana, urge, mumukshu, that urge should be there. If it is not there, there cannot be any peace. And for one who does not have that peace, where can he get happiness? Ashantasya kutas sukam. So this bhavana is imagination or conception. But here, because of the context, we are translating it as concentration of thought on the Atman, bhavana, thought on the Atman, or faith in the Lord. This is the Vaishnava commentators translate. Yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavanam nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kutasukam. So it means that in the yogic concentration, what is yogic concentration? Yukta asita matparaha. That is the yogic concentration. Matparaha, that is surrendering to me, taking me as the last resort. Sit in union, in concentration of thought on the Atman. In me means, the other commentators say, faith in the Lord. So that is shloka number 66. 67 is again a very simple. No vidhiyate tadasya karate prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi charatam indriyanam. What do the senses do? They move about. Charatam indriyanam. The moving senses. As the senses move about, what does the mind do? Mind follows it. Mind. Yanmano no vidhiyate. The mind follows the roving senses. Yan manaha anuvidhiyate. What does that mind do because of that? Therefore, asya harati prajnam. It carries away his intelligence or consciousness, his understanding. It carries away. And Krishna gives you a beautiful example. In the ordinary, in water, running water, in the sea or wherever, when the sailboat moves about, how does it go? Wind blows. So, Vayuhu navam iva ambasi. Ambasi in water, navam the boat, Vayuhu the wind. The wind takes away, wind takes the boat, sailboat, in the direction of the wind. You see, just as that, the mind, charatam indriyanam, the senses are always, they do not sit in one place. They move about constantly from here to there, like a child plays with different toys. It goes to one toy, it goes to another toy, it jumps from one toy to another. Adults also move this way. Sense objects are of several kinds, varieties of kinds. You see, so the mind follows. Therefore, tasmat. Next shloka, 68. Tasmat. Whenever Krishna uses the word tasmat at the beginning of a paraphrase, summarize the previous thought in the few shlokas. Tasmat, therefore, yasya mahabaho here, Arjuna, yasya nigrihitani indriyani sarvashaha indriyarthebhyaha tasya paho nigrihitani sarvashaham indriyani indriyarthebhyaham tasya prajna pratishthitam. Whoever for whom the senses have been bridled up, that is, yasya sarvashaha indriyani nigrihitani. Indriyani, senses. Sarvashaha, always. All indicated there. Sarvashaha. Sarvashaha is a key word which occurs very often in Gita, and every time Kanchi Shankaracharya has said, it means both two things. By all means and at all times. So, sarvashaha indriyani nigrihitani. So, indriya senses, if they are bridled up, that is controlled. For whom? Yasya indriyani nigrihitani. Whoever it is for whom the senses have been bridled up from the respective objects of the senses, indriyarthebhyaha. Indriyani, senses, that person's intelligence, tasya prajna pratishtita, is well anchored, is fully established. So, Krishna is trying to wind up now. Tasmat means there is a summary. So here is the summary. Whole thing is a control of the senses. So he is going to change the topic from the next shloka, number 69. Ya nisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam nisha pashyato mune. Carefully try to understand this. We are going to spend a good lot of time on this shloka. Ya Nisha sings. Ya Nisha. What is night? So I am giving you first the literal, straightforward meaning of the Sanskrit words. Tasyam, in that night, Jagarti Samyami. Samyami means the yogi who has controlled his senses. That yogi is Jagarti, he is awake. Whatever is night for all beings, that night the yogi, the sage, the Sthita Prajna, the controlled, mind-controlled person, he is awake. When all beings are awake, that time, Sa Nisha, that is right for the Muni. Here, qualified Pashyato Mune. He sees. He is a seer. He sees rightly. Pashyata. In some other lecture, I am going to tell you about what is this word Pashyaka. Kashyapa Pashyako Bhavati. We will talk about it. So, seer. He is the seer. See whether you understand this means. So for what is night for all beings is day for the sage. We will call him sage. What is day? What is the time when all beings, all bhutas, beings are awake? Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani. Jagrati means awake. Right? Sa Nisha Pashyato Mune. The seer, the Muni who is the seer, for him it is the... Now, do you understand this? This is a metaphorical language Krishna uses for night and day. This is a remarkable shloka. The ignorant and the enlightened are contrasted here. Ignorant. Ignorant means those who are not aware, who have not realized absolute truth. They are the ignorant. The enlightened person is the sage. These two persons are contrasted. You see, the ignorance of the ignorant mass, the entire mass of people is ignorant. Their ignorance is the night here. The darkness resulting from ignorance. Well, they are ignorant of what? The real vision. That vision can realize the presence of the Absolute, but they are not aware of the presence of the they are ignoring it. So, the reality that enlightened the yogi, that is not for these people. So, the enlightened yogi, he sees the reality, the mass does not see it. So, it is always day for his introspective vision, aware of the eternal presence of the self, luminous, all-pervading reality. When the whole world is ignorant of the presence of the cosmic power, wise enlightened yogi, he is awake. For him, the absolute light is radiating with all its brilliance. But the ordinary mass is not realized. Permanent bliss of light and wisdom. So it is a question of who is asleep, who is awake. Nisha and Jagarti. Nisha is night, Jagarti is awake. Who is asleep, who is awake? This is the rhetoric of the presentation here. It is a relative nature. You see, there is an inbuilt ignorance within us. Right now he is not calling it Maya. There is an inbuilt ignorance. We are in its spell. We are awake. We are active. We think so. The sage knows we are only in a state of ignorance, because we think this world of activity is permanent and real. So that is the ignorance. We think that everything that we see is permanent. We think that everything that we do is something that is real, but it is not so. That is why he says Vivekananda. He knows what we are under. We are under the spell of ignorance. So that is this shloka here. It is a very profound shloka. You have to think about it carefully. Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagarti Samyami. Whatever is night for the entire, they are totally ignorant of the reality. tasyam jagrati samyami. The real sage is aware of that reality, therefore he is awake. For him, the brilliance shines. Yasyam jagrati bhutani. Whatever is day for us, we see, we think we are active, but we are not aware of that real truth. So sanisha. See, and the material world of the universe and this apparent reality, this is only night for him, because he knows that all this is not real. Well, if you look at various commentators on this shloka, you will find various thought processes. But the idea is the same. But one such thought process I liked very much, so I would draw your attention to that. This I got from Gita. I think it has now been translated into English also. Here he says, in this shloka, take the example of a child of 3 playing with his toy. It's a toy. He's playing with it. It's the height of its play. So it's very happy. Brilliance. So the child is brilliant. You pull away the toy from the child loses all its brilliance. This is what we are doing. The sensuous play. By sensuous means senses are being attracted or repelled by sense objects. The sensuous play of the senses with the corresponding sense objects is what makes us brilliant. We think that our interaction with the sense objects makes our life brilliant. But when that involvement with that sense object stops for some reason, you see, we think all brilliance is gone. The sensual involvement in the outside world is day for us. But Vedanta says, have an unsensuous use of the senses. Then only you will see the real daylight. That is why ragat dvesha viyuktaistu vishayan indriyaishchara. Devoid of attraction and repulsion, try to use your senses with the same sense objects. That is your real day of brilliance, not the current one. I think is the content of this shloka. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutato puneh. You see, these 5-star shlokas like that, nasato vidyate bhavo, that kind of shloka, where profound truths are put in these 2-line verses, they have to be always remembered, and that is a good shloka for our nididhyasana purpose. So that is where we will stop today, onwards from the next session. Swasti prajabhya paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim majisho go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam lokas samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om.